All right, let's dive into it, huh? Chemical engineering technician, right? Lots to unpack here. You weren't kidding with all this material, everything from what these folks do every single day to like how to actually crush it in this career.
It's definitely more than meets the eye, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Way more dynamic than most people realize.
No kidding. I mean, I was surprised. Honestly, like a specific certification, didn't know that. And the tech they're using, seriously cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about it. They're the bridge,
Yeah.
between like pure chemistry theory and the stuff we use every single day. So they're taking these raw materials, and because they get those chemical processes, they're turning that stuff into, well, you name it, medicines, food, the drinks we enjoy, even the materials that literally build our homes. It's pretty remarkable.
It really is when you think about how much impact they have, like on our daily lives, right? So paint me a picture. What's it actually like day to day? Is it all, lab coats and beakers?
Well, it's definitely more diverse than you might think. Labs, yeah, lots of meticulous experiments for sure, but you'll find them on factory floors too, especially with large-scale manufacturing. And even offices, depending on the role. One day it's monitoring a massive chemical reaction, the next they're hunched over data, fine-tuning some product's formula. And for those who like to be on the cutting edge, tech is changing everything fast.
See, that's what I kept thinking about as I was going through the stuff you sent. High throughput screening, simulations on computers. This isn't your grandma's chemistry set anymore, is it?
No way, not even close. Take high-throughput screening where you're talking thousands, millions of experiments, but happening crazy fast compared to the old ways. Drug discovery is faster, new materials get discovered quicker. It really is revolutionizing the field.
And I'm guessing that speed, that's just the start, right? It's like possibilities we couldn't have even imagined before.
You got it. Product development, how we optimize those processes, it's all changing. Exciting time to be in the field, that's for sure.
Definitely sounds like it. Okay, so exciting times, but let's talk job outlook. We all want to make sure our skills are going to be relevant in the future. Am I right?
Yeah, you're definitely thinking the right way. Overall, the outlook is positive, which is good.
Yeah.
And this is huge, especially if you're thinking about this as a career, staying ahead of the curve, knowing what's coming down the line in the industry, that's everything.
Can't just rest on those basic skills, got to stand out, right?
100%. It's about thriving, not just
Yeah.
getting by, right?
Yeah.
So that means never stopping, always learning, always leveling up. I mean, look at sustainability, right? It's massive. Companies are scrambling, trying to figure out how to be greener, how to reduce their impact. Imagine you're that technician, the one with the know-how to design those eco-friendly processes, or maybe you're the one who could develop biodegradable packaging. Talk about
Yeah.
in demand.
Sure.
Or take nanotech, another one that's just exploding. Medicine, electronics, everything's changing because of it. And those technicians, the ones with the skills, they're the hot commodity.
So promising, yes, but got to be smart. You need a plan, be proactive. Okay, enough big picture stuff. Let's get real. What about the job itself? The good, the bad, the ugly. What are we talking about here?
So based on everything we've got here, plenty to be excited about. The earning potential, pretty darn good, especially if you've got those specialized skills you've put in the time.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said, the opportunities, tons of variety, and constantly changing, which keeps things interesting. But even more than that, I think this field draws in a certain kind of person, right? People who are passionate about science and how it can actually make a real difference in the world. It's more than just a paycheck. It's a chance to contribute to something bigger, you know? Like developing those life-saving drugs or figuring out innovative solutions to these environmental problems we're facing.
That's got to be rewarding, seeing your work actually lead to something that benefits people. Okay, but gotta ask, there's got to be a flip side, right? No job's perfect. What about the challenges?
Well, no sugarcoating it. It can be competitive. A lot of people are waking up to the opportunities here, so those top jobs, they're going to be hotly contested. And the work itself, it's demanding, let's be real. Long hours sometimes, tight deadlines, and you're handling potentially dangerous materials, so you absolutely can't take safety lightly. And that whole continuous learning thing, which is a huge plus, also means you're always on. Got to keep up, keep learning, keep adapting, not the career path for someone who wants things to stay the same all the time.
Sounds like you need a certain kind of drive to really thrive as a chemical engineering technician, huh? But isn't that true of any career that's worth it, though?
Yeah, totally. You got to be willing to hustle, to put in the work. But those challenges often come with some amazing opportunities for growth, for pushing yourself further than you thought you could go. The need to always be learning turns into this amazing advantage. Your knowledge is expanding all the time. You're picking up new skills left and right, adapting to the latest tech. It keeps your brain engaged, that's for sure.
You've got me thinking about the actual career path now. Can someone, start at the bottom, entry level, and work their way up? What's that progression look like?
Definitely. It's pretty structured, actually. Usually you'd begin as an entry-level technician, assisting the more experienced folks, learning the equipment, the procedures, all the safety protocols. You're building that solid foundation.
So very hands-on, getting familiar with everything, like an apprenticeship almost.
Exactly. An apprenticeship is a good way to put it. As you gain experience, knowledge, you'd move up, become a junior chemical engineering technician. More responsibility at this stage. You might find yourself developing and testing new chemical products on your own or optimizing how the plant operates, even troubleshooting technical issues as they come up. You're not just following instructions anymore. You're starting to own it.
So problem solving, making those judgment calls on your own, what would that look like in the real world?
Okay, picture this. Junior technician tasked with making a chemical production process more efficient. They're analyzing data, running experiments, probably even teaming up with engineers to actually make changes happen.
Yeah.
It's a dynamic role. You need the technical chops for sure, but you also need those creative problem-solving skills to really shine.
Man, what an opportunity to make a real impact, to actually see your ideas come to life. Okay, last stage here, top of the ladder, senior chemical engineering technician. We talking managing teams, overseeing big projects. Is that what we're looking at?
You bet. Senior technicians, they're often the ones leading those teams,
Yeah.
mentoring the junior staff. They're the ones designing and putting those process improvements into action that we were talking about earlier, interpreting complex data to make sure the right decisions are made, making sure everyone's following those safety protocols to a T. It's a big job.
Big responsibility, but also, I bet, incredibly rewarding, knowing you got to that level and that your experience, your knowledge is shaping the work of the whole team.
Absolutely. That feeling of accomplishment, it drives a lot of them. They've come a long way from following steps to leading the charge, and that journey, it builds a lot of pride, that's for sure.
It's awesome to hear about that kind of growth potential within this field. Okay, so we've got a handle on what they do, the different environments they might find themselves in, even how their careers might progress. But what about the nitty-gritty? The skills, the actual knowledge someone needs to succeed as a chemical engineering technician? The stuff you shared had quite the list.
It did, it did. And we could just rattle it all off, but I think it's more helpful if we break it down a bit. How about we group those skills thematically and make it easier to digest?
Ooh, I like where you're going with this. Hit me with the organized, user-friendly version.
All right, so first up, science and problem-solving skills. We're talking analyzing data, logic, reasoning, that ability to approach a problem from different angles until you crack the code. It's about connecting the dots, taking that knowledge and applying it, not just memorizing facts and figures.
And those are valuable no matter where you go, really, especially in STEM fields, right? Always learning, always adapting.
Exactly. Next up, communication and teamwork. You might not think it's crucial in a field that's so science-heavy, but it's huge. You got to be able to explain complex stuff clearly, whether you're speaking or writing it down, and you got to be able to work effectively with others to hit those goals. No lone wolves in the lab here. It's a team effort all the way.
It takes more than just brains. You got to be able to work with people, share those ideas, build something together. Makes total sense.
Yep. And finally, we've got knowledge and learning, which honestly might be the most important of all, because in this field, the learning never truly ends.
Especially with technology changing so quickly. You're right, what you pick up in school, that's just the start of it, right?
100%. You got to have that solid base in chemistry, math, those engineering principles. But here's where it gets really interesting, where that technical expertise varies thing comes into play. The sources you gave me really highlighted those programming languages, specifically MATLAB and Python. They're becoming super valuable for chemical engineering technicians these days.
Makes sense with all the data these high-tech tools are churning out, right? Got to be able to wrangle it, make sense of it. Knowledge might be power, but knowledge plus knowing how to code, that's a whole other level.
Now you're getting it. And that whole lifelong learning thing, it's not just something people say. Joining those professional groups, like the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, staying current on what's happening in the industry, that's what sets you apart.
You got to have your finger on the pulse. Be ready to evolve and adapt as things change. Speaking of adapting, I think it's time we talk about how to actually snag one of these coveted chemical engineering technician positions, right?
Absolutely. Like any job search, it's all about preparation. But one of the tools you sent over, RoleCatcher, is like a cheat code for job hunting. It can really give you an edge.
All right, let's talk RoleCatcher. How's it going to help someone stand out from the crowd?
Think of it like this. It helps you zero in on the exact skills employers are looking for, analyzes your resume to see where you can make it stronger, and even helps you get ready for those interviews with specific questions and AI feedback. Streamlines the whole process, make sure you're putting your best foot forward.
That is super helpful, especially for someone who's just starting out or wants to make sure they're presenting themselves in the best possible light. Okay, since we're talking about interviews, why don't we shift gears and focus on that part of the journey? But first, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a flash to continue our deep dive into the world of chemical engineering technicians. And we're back, ready to dive back into the world of those chemical engineering technicians. Before we took a break, we were about to get into the nitty-gritty of how to really wow them in that job interview. It's how you get your foot in the door. But yeah, it can be a little intimidating, right?
It's true. Interviews can be a little nerve-wracking, but really, it's all about showing them who you are, what you bring to the table. Being authentic, but also prepared. And luckily for us, those sources you gave me, they actually had some of those typical interview questions.
Yeah,
Good place to start, right?
absolutely. No need to reinvent the wheel. So what kind of questions are we talking about here? What should someone be ready for?
Well, some are pretty standard, like why this field? What made you want to be a chemical engineering technician? Sounds basic, but don't just phone it in. This is your chance to let that passion shine through. You know what I mean? Talk about what really speaks to you, why this work matters. Maybe there was some scientific discovery that blew your mind, or maybe it's more personal, like how chemical engineering has touched your life directly. Those little details, they make a difference.
Yeah, gotta be real. Gotta be you. Okay, but what about those curveball questions, The ones they throw at you to see if you've really done your research. Those can be scary.
Oh, for sure. There was one that really jumped out at me. How do you stay current? Like with the latest tech, the new trends in chemical engineering. They don't just want a list of journals you skim. They want to see that you're hungry to learn, that you're not afraid to stay ahead of the game.
So mentioning those professional organizations we talked about, those industry publications, that would be smart, right? Show them you're plugged in.
Exactly. And get specific. Maybe there was a recent breakthrough in sustainable manufacturing that got you fired up, or maybe it's nanotech, how some companies using it in a whole new way. Connect those dots. Show them your passions align with what they're doing. It's not just about getting a job at that point. It's about finding the right fit.
Yeah, finding your tribe. Okay, any other questions that stood out to you? Like ones that reveal something about the field itself, or maybe about the company culture.
Okay, this one might sound deceptively simple, but it's a good one. Tell me about a time you had to troubleshoot a problem with a chemical process. On the surface, it's about problem solving, how you think on your feet. But it's also a prime opportunity to really show off how you handle pressure.
Time to tell a story. This is where you whip out that anecdote about how you identified the root cause of some issue, thought outside the box, and saved the day.
You got it. Did you prevent some major disaster by spotting an error before it blew up? Did you use your knowledge of those chemical processes to streamline things, make them more efficient? Just make sure that story, it connects back to the job, it highlights what you're good at, and it has a clear takeaway. They want to see that you can handle chaos and come out on top.
This is gold. Okay, before we move on, any last tips about the interview process that people should keep in mind?
Don't forget, it's a two-way street. This is your chance to grill them a bit too, Learn about the company, the specific role, all that. Don't be afraid to ask those insightful questions. It shows you're genuinely interested, that you're not just applying everywhere and seeing what sticks.
Right. Shows them you're looking for the right fit, not just any old job. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground today. We've talked about the daily grind of a chemical engineering technician, the skills you need to level up, even how to crush that interview. But this is the deep dive, right? We got to leave you with something to chew on. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, but like we said, it's the deep dive, and we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't leave you with something to really think about, right?
Exactly. So one final thought for you all to ponder as we wrap things up. You've heard all about these chemical engineering technicians, right? The essential role they play, the skills that set them apart, how exciting but also demanding this whole world can be.
Yeah, and we talked about how quickly things are changing in the field, especially with technology constantly evolving. It's a lot to keep up with.
It really is. So here's the million-dollar question, and I'm throwing it out to all of you listening. As technology keeps advancing at this crazy pace, what do you think will be the biggest hurdle for these chemical engineering technicians in the next, say, 5 years? Will it be those software programs becoming even more complex than they are now? Or maybe it'll be adapting to a whole new wave of automation where robots are doing more and more of the hands-on work.
It's mind-blowing to think about where things might be headed even just a few years down the line.
Right. Or maybe it'll be something we haven't even talked about, like ethical considerations, nanotechnology, for example, all the possibilities there, but also a lot of unknowns.
That's such a great question to leave our listeners with. It really gets you thinking about the future of this field.
And that's what it's all about, Not necessarily having all the answers right now, but being curious, wanting to learn, always adapting.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We've given you the tools, the information. Now it's your turn to go out there and explore, to ask those tough questions, and never lose that thirst for knowledge.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one coming up with the solutions to those challenges a few years down the line.
Hey, we can always hope, right? Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of chemical engineering technicians.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating field with you all.
As always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into some other exciting career path. Until then, keep learning, keep asking those questions, and most importantly, stay curious.